was like, oh, yeah, this is a radical challenge to most astrology wisdom, because for decades I thought, oh, well, the sun is your authentic self. You need to express your sun. No, you're not here. The sun is important, but it's not the most important part of your identity, because, nobody goes to the movies to see Meryl Streep. They go to the movies to see whatever character Meryl Streep is going to bring to life.
Kevin B. Burk, welcome to the Highly Spiritual Person podcast. Thank you so much for joining. How are you?
I'm doing well, Camille. Thank you for having me.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. So we have an hour. I have so many questions. This is like a completely new concept to me. So the thing that I'll start with is when we first started talking over email, the thing that grabbed me is you started talking about Dungeons and Dragons, role-playing games, fantasy role-playing. Now, a lot of people don't know I do play Dungeons and Dragons. It's been a few years, but I do play tabletop games. I love fantasy role-playing games. I was into Final Fantasy growing up. So as soon as you pointed those things out and you talked about personal development, I said, okay, I need to learn more. And then I went on your website and I said, okay, I need to learn even more. I really need to talk to Kevin and figure out what this whole thing is about. So I just want to start out with the basics. Astrology. Where did your interest in astrology start?
Same place everybody's did. I thought it always promised answers.
Yeah.
It was, it always promised. It's like, oh, this is gonna tell you all about yourself. This is gonna help you to make sense of the world. And that's what always drew me to it. And, I spent 30 years kind of stomping around and demanding to see the manager and trying to get it to actually do what it was supposed to do.
Yeah.
And it never really did.
Yeah.
But also, part of what this journey has been for me, was, a couple of years, year and a half ago, in the middle of having created the human game, I realized I've never been an astrologer. I always assumed I've been misidentifying as my pronouns for decades. My pronouns were Scorpio, Cancer, Gemini. Right. I always thought I would, but I never fit in. With astrologers. And I didn't think anything of that because I've rarely fit in anywhere. So I just thought, oh, it's just but so few people seem to even understand why I was asking the questions that I was asking, and why I'm looking at this and going, okay, that's interesting, but that doesn't quite, this doesn't hold up to critical thinking. We're missing something here.
Yeah.
And then I created the human game, which we'll talk about a little bit more specifically. But for like the first year of it, I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
I didn't understand. Is it a coaching model? Is it a, is it a floor wax? Is it a dessert topping? I wasn't sure what it was. And I was struggling to figure that out. And then I realized it's a philosophy. And then I realized I'm a philosopher.
Yeah.
I've never been an astrologer.
Yeah.
I've always been a philosopher, because I don't care about astrology. Astrologers care about astrology. I don't care about astrology. I care about the answers astrology is supposed to give me. And I see astrology as, this is a tool. This has got potential to give me answers to questions of life, the universe, and everything.
Yeah.
And that's what I care about. And, it took me, close to 30 years of of identifying as an astrologer and more than 20 plus years of teaching astrology to
Mm-hmm.
finally realize, oh, here's how I've been looking at it from outside of the bubble.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can make it work. It's amazing. It can do all sorts of things,
Yeah.
but it's not baked into the astrology.
So yeah, let me stop you there because I feel like
Mhm.
this is a story that I hear from some people when they have an interest in astrology and they start to do a deep dive and they're missing maybe the depth and the storytelling. They get into, oh, I know what my sun sign is, I know what my moon sign is, but there's not a story or a deeper philosophy. Did you feel like that was what was missing?
Eventually,
Yeah.
but it also took me, I mean, it took me, and it was a, stumbling along these paths to understand what the limits were with
Mm-hmm.
how we approach astrology. Because what
Sure.
people think of when they think of modern astrology is a very specific thing. It is not what astrology was for, astrology's been around for thousands of years and it's all about the personality. Well, no.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, astrology's been around for thousands of years. And the astrology that we think of today has been around since 1968.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and the personality's only been around for about 100 years or so, a little more than 100 years when Freud invented it.
Mm-hmm.
So these things don't actually line up quite the way that we think
Mm-hmm.
that we do. And the way that we look at astrology right now, and there's value in this,
Mm-hmm.
but astrology is being primarily used
Mm-hmm.
as a system of personality typing.
Yes. Yes.
And personality typing is incredibly useful for very specific things.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly, it is a great way of answering one of the most fundamental human questions, which is what the hell is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Um, but that's what the appeal is,
Yes.
because personality typing lets you sort people into little boxes.
Yes.
And there's this. I'm exploring. I've tapped into this whole abyss of these unconscious expectations of agreement, which is basically, we need other people to agree that our
Mhm.
reality is actually,
Yeah.
valid. And so we go through. So anytime we can't make sense
Yeah.
of something, it creates this existential threat. And we just live with this on
Yeah.
a daily basis. It's just a background noise. But we want to understand.
Mhm.
And astrology is so great because it lets us understand what the hell is wrong with somebody. Oh,
Right.
Aries. Yeah, okay.
Right.
They
Right.
go in that box.
Yeah.
That box is over there. That box fits in my reality. I understand what that is.
Yeah.
And I'm over here in my box,
Right.
but I know where my box is in relation to that. And it all fits in, and I can make sense of it. So I'm no
Mhm.
longer under this existential threat of people are behaving in ways that I can't anticipate and people are scary.
Right. Right.
And there's a great deal of value
Mhm.
for that in
Mhm.
terms of understanding, making sense of other people's behavior so they are no longer problems in your life.
Right.
And personality typing can also help you by helping you to understand a little bit. Here's some framework. Oh, you're in this box. It's like, oh, yeah, I am. I do that. And that's nice,
Mhm.
but it doesn't describe you.
Right.
You will never be defined entirely by any one box.
Yeah.
And so, you know, therapists, counselors don't use personality typing because
Mhm.
it's not a useful tool for
Mhm.
actual deep self-discovery.
Right. Right.
It's a nice shorthand and it's got great uses.
Mhm.
But then also the thing that was frustrating me about astrology
Mhm.
is that this approach
Mhm.
to astrology, this personality based approach to astrology, this give me a reading about my natal chart,
Mhm.
is passive and descriptive.
Mm.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Mhm.
I was, when I still thought that was what I was trying to teach, I was explaining, this is about, it's like getting your portrait painted,
Yeah.
because it's never going to, it's going to capture an impression of you. It's never going to capture everything about who you are, but it might reveal something interesting about you. And having your portrait painted, my mom is a portrait artist, so I speak from experience with this.
Yeah.
Having your portrait painted is it's a lovely experience. It's nice sitting down with somebody and having them tell you how pretty you are for 60, 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And when you're done, you have a portrait, which you hang up on a wall.
Yeah.
And you look at, but you can't do anything.
So,
with it.
So it sounds like you're saying current, let's call it pop astrology, the astrology that you get in a magazine, the astrology that if you get on, any website that says, take this free quiz and we'll tell you about, your sun and your moon and why you are the way you are. That's giving you just a snapshot. It's a quick snapshot and it's not giving you a lot of depth, but you're saying the human game gives you a little bit more depth and story. Is that what it is?
It does. And I'll segue into the human game in just a moment.
Yeah.
The distinction, because it's a bigger context.
Yeah.
Because I'm still in the human game, you're just getting little snapshots.
Yeah.
But instead of it being descriptive, it's presented in a way that you can do something.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can actually use that piece of information to accomplish your goals, to find strategy. So it's a dynamic, engaging thing. And this is what I was always looking for. And I had to realize that this requires a totally different model. That it's not, because it's not just about how you're doing the interpretation, but it's the framework. This is different from the personality typing. Personality typing is fine.
Yeah.
I am saying nothing against it, but it's never been what I was interested in doing, but I didn't understand how to differentiate what I was looking for.
Yeah.
So the human game, the human game is a philosophy. The human game philosophy is that the universe is made up of stories. Story is the smallest practical unit of reality. So if everything is story, when you understand how story works, you can understand anything.
Yeah.
The human game experience is an astrology-based reality role-playing game that gives you creative control over the story of your life. So it applies the whole everything is story.
Yeah.
And it says, okay, everything really is story. Here's how you can start to appreciate and recognize the patterns of story in your own life. Because, there are, putting this in the fantasy role-playing, there's different realms. We're looking, the story we experience that we think is reality. It's a composite story. And with the human game, you learn to start breaking that down. So it's like you take the signal of the composite story, you put it through the prism of the human game story matrix, and it reveals the three realms, the three levels of story. There's the plot level story, character level story, and the theme level story.
Oh, okay.
The plot level story is everything in the outside world. Everything that you experience outside of you. It's all of your external goals. I'm sorry?
Yeah. Environment.
Sure, but it's literally everything that you perceive, and bottom line, it's what we think of as reality.
Yeah.
Because it's what we engage with and it's better lit. But it's external, and the plot level story is just the external sequence of events. It's just the facts, man. It's so, and nothing in the outside world really exists. It's all kind of projection. The character level story is where is your kingdom. It's the kingdom you need to go back and reclaim. It is actually all that you truly experience as real.
Yeah.
It's the world that lives inside you. which consists of your sense of me and your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it.
Wow.
And we engage with, so it's not very well lit, don't know how to engage with this, but our motivation as characters, all we care about is how we feel.
Yeah.
All we care about is, avoid pain, pursue pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
And we engage with the outside world because we think somehow making things happen in this brightly lit external thing is going to create feelings inside of us.
Yeah.
And there's a relation, but it's not what we think.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the theme level story.
Mm-hmm.
The theme level story is symbolic and universal and archetypal.
Mm-hmm.
Astrology operates at the theme level
Mm-hmm.
story. It is where we find meaning, but it is deep and it is not personal, and it's not directly practical. You can't. I mean, this is why people go through what's so lovingly called spiritual bypass.
Yes.
If you've done something wrong, well, spiritual bypass only means you are trying to take a theme level truth and apply it directly to the plot level story, and you can't do that. It has to go through the character level story because that's where you live.
Yeah.
And
Let's.
so this is,
The one thing I just want to make sure we don't go past this, because I feel like spiritual bypassing. I'm so glad you brought up this point. Yeah. This is something that is, I think, a problem for a lot of us, and I'm including myself in this.
Yeah, no,
I do this, right? We all do this,
and everybody's like, "Oh, you're doing a spiritual bypass," and you're like, "Okay, how do I not? What's so?" No, I don't have an answer. I'm just, that's what you're doing. But
yeah.
This is one of the things that it's like, oh my God, the human game explains what the hell the spiritual bypass is and how to actually,
yes,
address it.
Yes.
So part of the process is learning to separate out these levels of story.
Okay.
Because the theme level story, we kind of put on hold for a little bit, because it's like, first thing you got to separate out the plot.
Yeah.
You got to learn how to separate the external appearance of the plot level story from the internal character level story, because nothing in the outside world actually can affect your happiness, because happiness is a feeling that lives inside you and that has no direct connection to anything in the outside world. So everything is story. Your reality is story. Reality is subjective. Everything is, and this is a concept that is not unfamiliar.
Yes. Yeah.
To people.
Yeah.
And yet there's always if I created my own story, I would never choose to do this.
Right.
So I'm going to circle back around to that in a minute.
Yeah.
But let's look at, so yes, it is absolutely true that you can take charge of your story.
Yeah.
But this doesn't mean you go in and you change the composite story.
Yeah.
You have to understand there's 3 levels of story. You're going to have to work on one of the component levels of story, and you've got varying levels of creative control.
Yeah.
You have almost no creative control over the plot level story. You didn't create the outside world. You didn't create any of the conditions in the outside world. No matter how hard you try, you can't control everything, and some of the time you can't control anything.
Very true.
You have a high degree of creative control over the character level story.
Yeah.
So the plot level story is just the facts, ma'am. It's what happened. The character level story is what happened to me. How do I feel about it?
Yeah.
You get to decide how you feel about these external conditions.
Yeah.
You get to so you get to flip between problems and obstacles.
Yeah. Yeah.
So an obstacle is anything that interferes with your ability to accomplish an external goal. Anything that stands in between you and something you want is an obstacle.
Mm-hmm.
Obstacles belong to the plot level story.
Mm-hmm.
They are part of the outside world.
Yeah.
A problem is anything that interferes with your happiness.
Mm-hmm.
Just because something is an obstacle doesn't mean it needs to be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
You can choose whether or not the obstacle has
Yeah.
anything to do with your happiness. Now, you don't have to accept what's going on in the outside world.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where it gets. This isn't the spiritual bypass
Right.
of well, I'm sure it will all work out for the best. There
Right.
must be a purpose to all of.
This is
and
direct and practical.
well,
It
but
sounds
but
like.
it's as I talk about it, it's a small adjustment
Mm.
to your story. And then so theme level story where the spiritual truths are, you have absolute creative control because it's all made up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so it's incredibly powerful. And the benefit, the great news is that you have absolute creative control. And the bad news is you have absolute creative control because it's basically a blank page. And that's the scariest thing you will ever face as a creator.
So maybe what we should do is, because I love these components. I mean, this is giving me Dungeons and Dragons vibes. I love it, right? I'm thinking about creating my character sheet.
Yes.
Can we ground this in
Yes.
some actual examples? Are there certain things that come up in the plot level, in the character level, in the themes that you've seen that might help people kind of understand the game a little bit more?
Let me not tracking things specifically to that, but
Mm-hmm.
let me track this specific. Let me bring things back around to the Dungeons and Dragons, the astrology, the character stuff. How you're working with this, because I can get specific.
I love that
about that.
Yes.
So your birth chart
Mm-hmm.
is this multi-dimensional map.
Yeah.
It has all of your character attributes. It is a map of the city of your life.
Mm-hmm.
You basically right now, you have been, I don't know, abducted, and you're living in the external world, and you have a birthright that you're not aware of.
Right.
And the first thing you need to do, you need to be able to get back to the character level story and reclaim your kingdom.
Gotcha.
Because you've been driven by all these things in the plot level story, and that's not your destiny. So you come back to the kingdom and you start to reclaim things, and we're working on building a foundation of happiness, which involves your safety needs, which we work with the moon for, and validation needs, which we work with Venus for.
Oh, wow.
The birth chart really is, I mean, I introduce this stuff very gradually because a little astrology goes a long way. You don't have to know all of this stuff.
Yeah.
But it is broadly a map, not only, of the city of your life. There's 12 houses in the birth chart. These relate to 12 different neighborhoods. Each neighborhood is zoned for a different kind of activity.
Yeah.
And once you reclaim your kingdom and can start to play around with what you want to be able, then you get to say, oh, I want to upgrade my second, I want to do some work in the financial district. And so it's like, oh, there's the second house, and I know what I need and where the resources are for me in that based on how things are set up in my chart.
Yeah.
So everybody thinks astrology is all about the signs.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the thing that I have discovered, ironically, is that we don't really work with the signs at all. I mean, we don't. Interpreting the signs is pointless.
Really?
Because, well, here's the thing: if we're looking at this in terms of, because everything is about the planets. The planets are how we operate. The planets are the 7 voices in your head. So you are embodying a planet. There's 7. Your character class is one of the 7 planets. I mean, this is part of the D&D stuff that can go in there. These are the 7 character classes that you play at various times. But the planet is the need. It's how you express. It's how you operate things. And the sign modifies that expression. But the sign itself actually combines 2 separate things.
Mm-hmm.
The signs are made up of one of 3 modalities and one of 4 elements, and you combine
Okay.
the 3 and the 4 and you get 12. But the elements and the modalities answer completely different questions.
Okay.
The modality tells you how
Mm-hmm.
you approach a particular goal.
Mm-hmm.
The element tells you which language
Mm-hmm.
you speak,
Mm-hmm.
what kind of resources you need for that.
So modality and element, I just want to make sure folks understand what you're talking about. So element just being, fire, water,
Fire, earth, air, and water are the
right.
4 elements.
And then the modality.
Cardinal, fixed, and mutable.
Okay, so that's the part that I feel like I know. I only know fixed because I'm a Taurus, and I know Taurus is fixed.
Okay.
But explain the difference between a fixed sign, cardinal sign, and mutable. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so the difference between cardinal, fixed, and mutable is the difference between lawful, neutral, and chaotic. These are your character alignments.
Yes.
So the character alignments have in D&D and role-playing games have 2 axes. There's the moral axis.
Mm-hmm.
Are you good, neutral, or evil?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the operational axis, which is whether it's lawful, neutral, or chaotic.
Yeah.
And the lawful, neutral, chaotic tells you how you approach the morals. I mean, broadly, the moral is, I suppose, would be the language that you speak. So that would be broadly the element, but it doesn't quite track in the same way.
Yeah.
But the modalities, I gotta tell you, I in 20 years of counseling and doing astrology readings and working with clients in various programs, I maybe cumulatively spent 45 minutes talking about the modalities.
Really?
Because everything's focused on the signs.
Yeah.
And nobody and then when I realized what the modalities actually do, to this day, my mind gets continuous because, so these are 3 different strategies, 3 different teams, 3 different ways that you may approach a goal. Here's the thing to remember. This is the really important thing. In D&D, you've got your character has a single alignment. In the human game, each planet has its own alignment. And each planet is in charge of different things and different goals. So while you may take a cardinal approach to certain goals, you may take a fixed or a mutable approach to other goals. It's a situational alignment, which gets important when you start dealing with multiple things at once, when you're familiar enough with it to go, oh yeah, wait a minute, wrong strategy here. That's this planet talking. So the modality, I've broken these up. So I say there are 3 strategy teams. Cardinal, which correlates basically to the lawful alignment, is team hare.
Okay.
Fixed, which correlates to the neutral alignment, is team tortoise. And mutable, which corresponds to the chaotic alignment, is team hummingbird.
Okay. 3
totally different strategies. So the cardinal signs are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn.
Okay.
If you take a cardinal approach to something, the race is a sprint. Your team hare. You literally want to get there in leaps and bounds. The goal is an archery target.
Yeah.
You've got 1 shot to hit it with 1 arrow. So everything goes into the preparation, and you let the arrow fly, and it's like, well, you hit the target or you don't.
Yeah.
So if you hit the target, you take a giant leap forward. If you don't go anywhere. You wasted an hour. You start over again. It's when you take a cardinal approach to something, as with a lawful alignment, things tend to be black and white.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely, there are clear instructions, black and white. We hit the target, we don't. It's very, and that is a perfectly valid approach to goals. And there are obstacles built into that approach because you have to hit a target.
Yeah.
And, if the target is too far away to hit, that's kind of a problem. You're going to get discouraged. So one of the strategies with that is, oh yeah, I have to hit a target. I can move the target closer.
Mhm.
I'm never going to do this incrementally, but I don't have to put, so this blows my mind
Yeah.
and continues to, because I realized about a year and a half ago when these things started to come together, I take a cardinal approach to money.
Oh, okay. Tell me more about that. Yeah.
So, my second house, the planet that rules my second house is in a cardinal sign.
Uh-huh.
So my strategy towards money is a cardinal strategy. And the minute I made this, like, oh my God, yes, of course. I don't want to deal with money. Money is an annoyance. If I'm going to put my attention to money, I want a goal that is going to give me enough money that I'm not going to have to think about money for a very long time.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So
Yep.
everything goes in that one basket, and it's this giant goal. So I would put together new programs and new classes, and it's like all of the planning. It's like, this is the thing that's going to make me all of this money. And I would put all of the planning and all the strategy and launch the class, and then I totally lose interest because I can't do anything about it. People either register or they don't.
Yeah.
That's going to
Yeah.
play out, but I need a new goal now.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, that's totally, it's totally the cardinal approach
Yeah.
to that.
Yeah. Wow.
Contrast that with the fixed
Mhm.
approach. Fixed is Team Tortoise. So if you are on Team Tortoise, the race is a marathon.
Yeah.
It's a neutral alignment. So the strategy that you are most concerned with is maintain the status quo.
Mhm.
Everything, if you have a fixed approach to a
Mhm.
goal, you have an entire bureaucracy
Mhm.
inside you around that goal. You have an
Yeah.
accounting department
Yeah.
that is monitoring costs and expenditures and targets and everything. So if you need to accommodate a change, it's a big deal. It's like, oh, no. We
Yeah.
got forms to fill out.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can't just respond. We got a whole accounting department that's got to approve this, and 6 levels of managers that need to
Yeah.
sign off on it. Just hold off there for a moment.
Right. Right. Right.
And also a perfectly valid way of approaching a goal.
Mhm.
And if that's the approach, some of the things you need to do to stay motivated are make sure you are really tracking all of your incremental progress. Because on the one hand, you need to feel like you're not wasting your resources.
Mhm.
You don't want any sudden changes. So you're not going to necessarily notice the progress. So it's really important to be able to just take incremental measurements and then periodically go like, oh, this doesn't feel like whoa,
Mhm.
look how much progress I've actually made.
Yeah.
Because this is how we stay motivated with that.
Yeah.
And then mutable, the chaotic approach, mutable is Team Hummingbird.
Yeah.
So cardinal, the race is a sprint. Fixed, the race is a marathon. Mutable, the race is a scavenger hunt.
Ah, okay.
It's not about getting to the finish line. It's about ticking all of the items off the to-do list.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what order you do it in. You can,
Mhm.
You break the task down into a collection of things. I can do this, I can do that. And so it's very flexible. It's very situational.
Mhm.
And one of the challenges with that approach is that you can feel like you get a sense of accomplishment every time you check an item off the list.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean, but all items are not created equal. So it doesn't mean you're actually making any progress
Mhm.
towards your goal. You can have the sharpest pencils in town and not have gotten anything written down. But you feel like, but boy, I'm sharpening the pencils. That was a thing to do. And I had
Yeah.
enough energy and resource to do that. And I could do that now. I could check that off the list. So if you have a mutable approach, there's some strategies to look at to go,
Mhm.
okay, let me make sure that I'm running the to-do lists in multiple ways and I'm not juggling too many things.
Mhm. Mhm.
And this is dynamic.
Yeah.
This is practical. And it's just tiny. And this is one little thing.
Mhm.
This isn't, oh my God, all of the astrology. One tiny little thing
Mhm.
takes 5 minutes sitting
Yeah.
down with a client. It's like, well, I tell somebody, I tell you about your modality about something. You're done. What are we going to do with the other 85 minutes? You're already wanting to go off and use this because, oh my God, that's practical. I want to experience it.
Yeah.
Are you
Yeah.
done talking yet? I want to go do something with
I
this.
love that's what's so powerful about everything that you're describing is I feel like I'm taking so many tidbits of things where I'm like, oh, okay, if I knew that information, I could use that in this area. But what you're doing in the human game is it sounds like you're doing all of that work in the background and then you're presenting it back to the person in this kind of fun and easy to digest way.
Well, here's the thing. And this was also another one of those really just mind-blowing realizations.
Mm-hmm.
Spiritual development doesn't have to be hard work.
Oh,
It can actually
I didn't
I
know that.
never knew. My entire journey.
I wish I knew that.
Yeah, but here's the thing. It's okay.
Yeah.
I want to circle back to something I didn't finish addressing.
Please do.
The idea that why would I have chosen, if I'm in charge of my life, I would never have chosen that story.
Yes.
Okay. So only law of the human game is the best story wins.
Mm-hmm.
So all you need to do to change your reality is upgrade the story.
Mm-hmm.
Story of your life is a good story. Here's the thing. We engage with these stories at 3 levels.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, we engage with the story from the perspective of the protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
We are in the story. We are living the story. The story is happening to us.
Yeah.
But we're also the audience of the story. We're also watching it and enjoying it. And then finally, we're the authors of it.
Mm-hmm.
So your story is good.
Mm-hmm.
Your life, it's a good story. A good story doesn't have to be enjoyable for the character. If you would like your character to have a better time in your story, you can upgrade the story, but you must make it a better story.
Mm.
And you do that with the rules of story.
Mm.
So, one of the things I joke about is everything in your life up to this point has been your origin story.
Yeah.
All of the traumas, all of the ghost stories you're carrying around, all of these wounds, you are looking at them from only a limited perspective, because the rule of compensation states that every gift has a price, every price has a gift.
Yeah.
So whatever trauma, whatever suffering, whatever twists and turns you've experienced that has banged you into the unique shape that you're in, so that forget finding a round hole.
Yeah.
You need a custom, that stuff, it was not pleasant for your character. You've been paying a price for that. It's up to you to go demand the gift.
Yeah.
There is a gift of equal or greater value. You need to figure out what it is. But the things that you think are your greatest weaknesses and your greatest disabilities are in fact your superpowers. You just need to figure out how to turn them around.
Yeah.
Because that's how story works. And that makes it a much better story.
And more motivational. I mean, and more inspirational for myself, if I'm seeing myself as the protagonist or the main character, as Gen Z likes to say, right? I'm seeing myself as the main character. And now I'm in this place where I'm empowered and I can actually do something.
Yeah. And it's like, you can always do something.
Yeah.
And recognizing you can't always do something on the plot level, but you don't need to make it about the plot level.
Yeah.
We have to live in the plot level. We play these, we call it gambling in the happiness casino. We're playing these external plot level games.
Yeah.
But it's fun when you lower the stakes. When you can know that none of this is going to affect your happiness.
Yeah.
It becomes fun. You get to be more creative and more playful. And then you find meaning by tapping into the theme level.
Yeah.
story. And this is the thing that I love about, because you don't need astrology to engage with the human game philosophy. But my God, why wouldn't you want it? Because when you're looking at, well, how do I find meaning? How do I connect my personal life to a good, powerful, universal story? Well, you've got this birth chart that is this personalized, deluxe assortment of customized story tropes.
Yeah.
So you are never facing a blank page.
Yeah.
You can dip into that and go, oh. And then you can also use other strategies. Like, oh, money. So for me, on, the simple level, with money, oh yeah, I take a cardinal approach to it. But also the planet that rules my second house is my moon.
Yeah.
And so that means that for me, on a theme level, money is safety. There's no difference. Money is emotions, and money is feeling. And so one of the, so if for me to do the deeper work to create money, certainly need to manage my safety needs, but also this morning I was realizing, I'm managing my safety needs, and I don't worry. Money's not a problem, but I'd still like to create more of it.
Sure.
Now, and it's like, so maybe I go deeper. Maybe I look at the emotions. Maybe I look at the energy of this, because those lessons, those stories on the theme level, I can add that to my stories about money, and all of a sudden, they're juicier. They're more substantial, and they're definitely not about what the balance is in my checking account, because that's just a way of keeping score.
Right.
That's not what's really happening.
Yeah.
And of course, you may have a totally different approach to money.
Yeah.
There's 7 different character classes that may be in charge of your money.
Yeah. I love it. It's funny. I want to dig into this so much more. As soon as you said character classes, I was like, oh, I wonder if I'm a rogue or a mage, or like whatever combination is there.
So here's where that comes in a little bit, and then the great big thing.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, great big picture, you're all of them.
Right.
You've got 7 voices in your, so the planets, the personal planets, the 7 astrological archetypes are the character classes. So the character classes, the sun is the archetype of the hero.
Okay.
The moon is the archetype of the reflection.
Okay.
Mercury is the archetype of the storyteller. Venus is the archetype of the beloved. Mars is the archetype of the warrior. Jupiter is the archetype of the dreamer. Saturn's the archetype of the judge.
Got it.
Each one of these archetypes, each one of these planets on a character, because these are theme level symbols. They don't mean anything. When we connect them to the character level story, so you have a personal experience of them, they represent your needs. They represent needs, feelings, desires. So the moon is your safety needs. Venus is your validation needs. Saturn is your needs for responsibility. Jupiter is your need to grow. Mercury is your need to understand and communicate. And so each of these archetypes has their own language they speak based on the element.
Yeah.
Their own alignment based on the modality.
Yeah.
And they can be leveled up. You need to learn how to work with them. You need to gain experience. And the more skilled you get working with them, the more you get to unlock their abilities.
Yeah.
In the human game experience, we're working, we're basically only touching on 3. Okay? We start with the moon because the most important part of the quest for happiness is you need to learn how to get your safety resources.
Okay. Yeah.
And so you're going to learn how the element and modality and the house occupied of the moon makes up a big part of what I call the happiness GPS. And you will actually tell these stories and experience how it helps you acquire safety resources.
Interesting.
And then Venus is how you activate your validation resources. And Venus may or may not have the same language or alignment or house location as the moon. So we've got 2 different things. So you'll be playing with each of those and getting that reference.
Yeah.
And we need, it's like, this is the basic training because you're not ready to go. So once we get through that, then we start to look at, okay, we're going to deal with the first. Now we're really beginning. We can take a peek at just the first layer of your character, which is your avatar, which is the character class that other people think you are, and is the one that will bring you the most happiness. And that is the planet that rules your rising sign.
So it's what's outward that people see.
It's what's outward that people see.
Yeah.
But it's also your happiness. And the thing of it is, it is how other people cast you in their stories.
Got it.
The role you are playing when other people are engaging with you.
Yeah.
And it may not jibe with who you think you are.
Yeah.
Because who you think you are is Mars. Mars is the character that you play.
Yeah.
And then the sun is the actor behind the character.
Got it. Yeah.
So these are the three elements of your identity. That's an advanced module, because first we got to build a foundation of happiness, get functional with some of this basic stuff. But recognizing, how do you present to the world? What is your character class?
Yeah.
My character class is Mercury, the storyteller. I've got Gemini on my ascendant. And yeah, I absolutely appear with the understanding, communication, and intellect, and that's definitely how other people see me. It is also a deep source of personal happiness and satisfaction for me. However, my happiness comes from having my Mercury express and operate on its own terms.
Yeah.
And other people may not appreciate that, because when you, for example, see me as Mercury.
Yeah.
But you're expecting me to be your Mercury.
Oh, yeah.
And so you're going to give me external approval when I live up to those expectations.
Interesting.
When I play the role of your Mercury, because that's in your chart.
Yeah.
Then
interesting.
You give me a cookie, and it's like we get approval from other people when we live up to their expectations, and we live up to their expectations when we behave the way that they think we should be behaving based on how they're projecting the archetype, the avatar.
You know what's interesting though, Kevin? So now I actually had to pull up my co-star, because I was like, now I'm curious as you were saying this. Because now it's like I'm connecting all the dots. So my Mercury is in Gemini in the second house, and my ascendant, my rising is Aries.
Okay,
and
so Mars is your So again, diving way into the weeds on this, 3 elements of identity. This is part of the identity quest, which doesn't fully exist yet as a thing. It's coming up. 3 elements of identity: human seeming, human doing, human being. Human seeming is your avatar, chart ruler. Human doing is you, the character, the protagonist, the main character of the story of your life. And then human being is the sun, the truth that you are an eternal multidimensional being inhabiting this character. In this lifetime, you are playing the character of Camille, but that's not who you are. There is an actor, there is a bigger authentic self giving life to this character. And this is the thing that thing that was like, this is a radical challenge to most astrology wisdom, because for decades I thought, the sun is your authentic self. You need to express your sun. No, you're not here. The sun is important, but it's not the most important part of your identity. Because, nobody goes to the movies to see Meryl Streep. They go to the movies to see whatever character Meryl Streep is going to bring to life. The most important part of the identity is Mars. It's your character. And you're trying to give the best performance as that character. So you have the double-edged sword, because everything's a double-edged sword, of the way you show up to people is in fact who you are. People see you for your character. And on the one hand, there's some really great benefits of that, but it can also end up becoming limiting
Yeah.
because you're comfortable playing the character in the way other people experience, but you may not be quite as inclined to take risks
Mm-hmm.
with your character because other people will really respond. It's like, no. You're always, we know you from your starring role in the series of Harry Potter, and
Right,
it's like,
right.
no, but you are Hermione. This is who we expect you to be. We just want you to be that. It's like, no, I'm an actress. I'm playing that. No, but we want
Yeah.
to see that.
Yeah.
We want to see more of that character.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
want to see
Yeah.
Lucille Ball always being Lucy
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
not playing anybody else.
Yeah.
And that doesn't start out as a limitation, but it could
Yes.
become a challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. I love this, Kevin. I love this. I know we're getting close on time, and I want to
Okay.
make sure that we really talk about how people can engage in this game, what that actually looks like. If they say, I want to do the human game, I need to understand these themes. I need to understand how I can break through blocks. What does that actually look like to work with you with the human game experience?
Okay. The human game experience is an 8-week online program. I tie myself
Yeah.
into knots avoiding any language that associates it with a class because it's not a class.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it looks like a class and it quacks like a class, but it's not a class.
Sure.
So there's a brief orientation week, and then basically over 8 weeks, each week there's a tutorial video,
Mm-hmm.
and then you download a section of the player's handbook,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have 3 days of gameplay objectives where you are applying these ideas to your story. So, for example, the first thing that the week 1, you need to understand the levels of story, and the exercises in week 1 are spot the plot.
Yeah.
I want to help you to separate out, take experiences from your life and break them down in the 3 acts of the plot level story. You have like a maximum of 7 sentences.
Yeah.
And understanding exactly how boring and unsatisfying the plot level story is.
Yeah.
And so you start to say, so it's like, oh, that's just the plot level story.
Yeah.
And then in week 2, there's exercises where you're lowering the stakes. You address the unconscious expectations that I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And so that helps you to start to find the fun.
Yeah.
And then in week 3, we start the quest for happiness. So you're learning about happiness, and you're learning about your safety needs, and then you start to get a little bit of your astrology, and you don't need to know anything about astrology. You need your astrology information. Yeah. But I send you right before week 4, I send you, here is your moon, here is the element, nodality, and house, and you will download just those pages of the player's handbook. So you will have your happiness GPS for that, and you'll explore that for a couple of days. So everything is taking you by the hand, step by step, giving you the opportunity to experience this, to recognize these connections in your life, because that's the part that needs to happen, because all this stuff seems so interesting and but what is so difficult to convey is this isn't just an entertaining story to hear me talk about from the outside.
Yeah.
You can actually experience, you can have what I'm having.
Yeah.
But you need to experience it kind of gently, step by step. It's a game. It is fun. We do a weekly check-in every Friday.
Yeah.
And the thing about that is, it's, even if you didn't post any of the gameplay objectives, because they're all optional, I really encourage people to make sure you do the check-in. Yeah. Because you're going to realize, oh yeah, no, I was actually playing the game all week, wasn't I? All the things that this week was about had been coming up. I just didn't. It's like,
they were actually playing the game.
Yeah, I was actually playing it. I claiming some prizes from this. This. I see where that connects.
Yeah.
And we've got a community.
Yeah.
So I'm coaching. Every time you post something, I'm giving you coaching and feedback. There's other players going through it with you. building this community. Once a month, I'm starting to do what I call a post-game Zoom conference, where pretty much anybody that's played can, it's office hours. You can do a Zoom, you can meet the
Yeah.
other players, chat with me.
Yeah.
So that's what the human game experience is, and I run
Yeah.
that a couple of times a year, 3,
Yeah.
4 times a year.
Wonderful.
So registration may or may not be open. But I also have free videos. I have a human
Yeah.
game introduction class, which is me exploring these little stories. So it's not structured.
Yeah.
It's not it's not as easy to figure this out for yourself navigating through those videos,
Yeah.
but it will give you things to think about, and it will illustrate these different concepts, and you'll become more familiar with the story ideas, and they're fun. I have a lot of fun creating these, but they're kind of the little sketches, but the human game experience is structured. I mean, it and I've been creating courses and trainings and spiritual training programs for 20 years.
Yeah.
And this is the first time that I've actually created something that does everything it says on the box.
Yeah.
There's no gap. There was always a gap between, the aspirational and the operational.
Yeah.
There was always, well, that's such a great idea and it's interesting, and I don't know how to apply it.
Yeah.
Everybody that's gone through this, it has clicked. They have gotten, everybody's gotten different things out of it, but everybody's gotten amazing stuff out of it. Yeah. And so this has become the requirement to work with me in one-on-one coaching. Because it doesn't, because you need you need the basic tools, you need some experience with these stories. And while you're in the human game experience, you've got the ability to book one-on-one sessions with me at a discount to help you with any specific stories in there. But once you've got a foundation of this, then I've got coaching clients that I've been working, and we can just soar.
Yeah.
Because it's like, ooh, we're going to play with some advanced stuff, and but you've got to have the foundation. It's got to be real to you. It's got to be operational. And right now, the reliable way in, I'm working on books. I'm working on other ways to make this more accessible.
Yeah.
Because it's a philosophy. It's just an idea. There's no, you don't have to buy the philosophy, but in terms of, if you really want the fastest way in, if you want to play, I'm going to give you stories I've created that are going to help you to discover this world, to help you to really inhabit these realms and experience how you can have some creative control over your story, and then you can take it in whatever direction you like. Again, just like Dungeons and Dragons, there are dungeon masters that want to create their entire world on their own, and you can do that.
Yeah.
And also, I'm going to be creating some new campaigns. There's got new things planned with the human game experience.
Excited. Yeah.
For it's like what you can do next with this, because having a little bit of structure and coaching to experience and explore these things, plus the community, that's fun.
Yeah.
It's optional.
I love it.
But I was thinking, not everybody wants to put together their entire own campaign.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I said, I'll give you can learn a few more tools, learn a few more tips and techniques, go a little bit deeper into your birth chart once things make sense. So it's not, oh my God, I have to learn all this. No, you don't have to learn any astrology.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you what you need. You don't need to understand the entire map to be able to find your way to the grocery store.
Sure.
You just need directions. The map is there.
Yeah.
You can go as deep as you like, whenever you like, but you've got to keep coming back home.
Yeah.
You can't live deep in the depths of the theme level.
Yeah.
It's juicy. It's meaningful, but you can't live there. You've got to bring it back to the character level story.
Yeah.
And
I love it.
Yeah. So it's just, I've been playing this nonstop in my
Yeah.
life for like the last 2.5 years. And in the last 2.5 years, I have had more fun than in the previous, 53 years combined.
I can tell the way that your face lights up, the enthusiasm that you have for this, even through your email. I was like, this is something unique. This is new. This is fun. I love when spirituality and personal development is fun. And I really feel like you have found your calling. I can see it in you. You
Oh
are
my Lord,
bright.
yes.
Yes.
Oh
Yes,
my
yes,
Lord,
yes.
yes. It's just because there's nothing wrong
Yeah.
with doing the deep work.
Yes.
And sometimes that's what's needed,
Yes.
but
Yes.
it's not the only option.
Yeah.
And it's, you can have fun.
Who
It
knew?
can be easy.
Who knew?
I didn't, not for
Neither did
so,
I.
we used to joke when I was going through practitioner training in the Science of Mind community I was in many years ago. It would describe the Prac 1 class as, you show up to class,
Yeah.
unzip your chest, take your heart out, put it on the table, pound on it,
Yeah.
put it back in your chest, zip it up, and go home.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I so much of my journey, if I wasn't struggling and suffering and dredging up these deep, difficult feelings, I wasn't making any progress.
Yeah.
And it was a status thing of how drained I was from all of the deep emotional work that and nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But I like showing people the option of, we can you don't have to do that right now.
Yeah.
We can do that. We can look at that story. We can go into that, but we can also say that story doesn't really need to apply here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we can just go, this isn't that, and put it up on a shelf, and it's no longer a problem, and you can deal with it at your leisure instead of thinking you need to address everything because it seems to be in front of you.
I love that.
It's just,
I love that. That is
I'm
so
doing
needed.
this until somebody tells me to knock it off. I mean,
keep doing it. Keep doing this. No, this is so needed. This is so needed. Definitely a lot of the people in the highly spiritual person community feel that way, that we're like, we've been doing the woe is me thing. We've been doing the that didn't work for me thing. And now it's time for a little bit of fun. It's time for a little bit of fun, and it's time to do it in a way where we can actually laugh and smile and look at our stories in a different way. That's time. It's time for that.
There's so, and I'm building this out. There's so much going on behind the scenes.
I know, yeah.
With this, because it's like I'm discovering where's the low-hanging fruit?
Yeah.
Where are the things that I can just introduce a fun little story that, because it's a better story, becomes just automatically becomes your story.
Yeah.
And then because it shuts down other things that were interfering, I call it, it suddenly lowers your guilt tax bracket.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden it's like, I have a lot more disposable happiness now than I was expecting. What's going on here?
Yeah.
I'm carrying around a little less unconscious guilt.
Yeah.
I didn't do it. That just happened.
That's just a part of it.
Work at that.
Yeah.
And there's so much low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
It's like, where can I find, what are the little things we can do? It's like, oh, that's easy. No, it's not going to address everything.
Sure.
But it's going to make you feel better, like right now. And then it's going to give you better options.
Yeah.
And you're going to have more ability to go, okay, now it's time to look at that old story.
Yeah.
Now it's time. Now I'm feeling grounded and protected enough to go in and look at something that was big and scary.
Yeah.
And go, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I got a better story for that now.
So Kevin, if folks are ready for a better story, where can they find you? What's your website?
Best place to start is playthehumangame.com.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Any other socials, any other place that people can follow you?
I'm on Facebook. I've got the Real Astrology Academy on Facebook. I don't do an awful lot
Yeah.
on social.
Yeah.
I have a YouTube channel, but not all the videos
Yeah.
are up there. But at playthehumangame.com,
Yeah.
you can learn more about the human game experience. You can
Yeah.
sign up for the free human game introduction class, which gives you in sequence like all of the little videos. I think there's 12 videos so far in the series
Wonderful.
that you get over a period of a couple of weeks access to.
Yeah.
And it just, I haven't quite figured out how to get much benefit from doing a lot of social stuff. I'm more
Yeah.
focused on creating the content,
You're working
which means
behind the
my website.
scenes
Yeah.
to make
Yeah.
it good. I love that. Kevin,
Yeah.
this was such a joy. I am so excited. You made this so fun. I am so
Thank you, Camille.
excited for everybody to play the human game. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Highly Spiritual Person podcast. I really hope you found this conversation inspiring and uplifting. If you did, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to our channel for more updates. And remember, sharing is caring, so if you think others would benefit from this content, don't hesitate to share it with your friends and family. We'll be back with more exciting content, so stay tuned and stay curious.